So since you face even more different nationality, and not nationality, but different
Ethnic groups.
ethnic groups.
Different,
So
yeah.
is there like language barrier or is there cultural barrier while you do the organizing work? Do you have to pay attention to this stuff? And this is one question. And also that what make you more impressive when you are young and the organizer trying to organize you? What make you touched? What you make you feel that wow, union might be good? Yeah, so these first two questions.
Very good, very good questions. So the first one with the language barrier. I love these questions, by the way. You guys are asking some really good stuff. It makes me dig deep. So the language barrier, you have to try to find somebody within the group. A lot of times we do what we call social mapping when we're organizing, right? There's two types of mapping. There's physical mapping and social mapping. Physical mapping is more of a layout of the facility, where the break rooms are, where the people meet up, where the people go smoke cigarettes, to know those areas where people can have conversations. Social mapping is when you're finding out who the Asians, right? The Chinese group that hangs out together. Some of them are Korean. You have the Dominican crew. You have the people that like soccer, that hang out together. You have the Jamaicans, maybe a group of workers that like to smoke pot together. We call them the pothead group. Whatever it is, there's always one leader, right? There's a leader and then there's a group of followers. So it's good to have a leader that you can find within that social group that can speak the language. If they can speak your language and their language, now you have somebody to help you interpret what you're trying to say. It's very important when you're building and organizing to find someone on your side in that group who's going to help you speak to that group. That's one way to stop the language barrier. Or if you can't, you get somebody from your camp that speaks that language that can help you. It's never going to be easy to try to figure out. Like, for example, right now in Amazon, we have some African workers that speak mostly French. We have to find French-speaking people. I'm lucky enough that we have people that do speak French. When I'm speaking to Haitian workers, we have UPS workers that speak Creole, and I'll rely on one of my UPS brothers to come down and help me speak to these Amazon workers. Creole, there's me, I'm Spanish, so I speak to all the Spanish workers, and I get more people like myself that can speak to others. The Spanish population is really big amongst these workers. A lot of migrants that came over that are working on visas and stuff like that. Yeah. And then there's the battle of turnover, right? Because Amazon's got one of the highest turnover rates of any company, 150%. That's unheard of. That is a ridiculous. They can go through a whole workforce within a year and have a whole new force of employees. This is something that has to stop. They're literally like batteries where you're flicking them out and putting a new one in. And like I told you, the less you work, they're trying to fire you so they can get the next person in. So yeah, keeping up with that is more difficult to me than the language barriers. Because with the language barriers, we figured it out. We know how to find ways to break into those social groups, find the leader in that social group, get them on our side, have them speak and interpret for us, or get one of our workers to help us interpret. So if that helps you in that question. Now, the other question, how do you move people, right? How do you get people to fight? How do you move people emotionally to the point where they're that angry that it's agitation. It's bringing those issues of what they're going through and burning that fire in the pit of their stomach. Like for me, when I'm talking to Amazon workers, I ask them, so, if there's one thing that you could change about the work at Amazon, what would it be? If you were, let's say, Harry Potter and you had a magic wand, a lot of these young kids, they watch Harry Potter, and you could just presto, change something, what would it be? And they start just this and that, and there's favoritism, and they fire people for not being fantastic, and their suspensions, and the way they treat people, and the way they do safety. It's like more of a horse and pony show to show like it's all for looks and show, that it's smoke and mirrors, right? There's no real safety. They don't care. But when OSHA comes around, everything's clean and everything's perfect. But when they're not around, it's a shit show, right? So a lot of times it's really digging deep into what the person is feeling and then having them take that and use it to take them on. It's like, well, all right, I hear what you're saying, but so what do you think we can do about it? right? What are you going to do about it? I'm hearing you, and it sounds to me like you have a lot of complaints. You feel like they've really, they have not paid you well, first of all. You're doing the same job as the UPS guy across the street, and he's got a pension. He's got benefits. He's making almost $50 an hour. They don't treat you right. There's no seniority. So anytime they want somebody to do something, they're picking their favorites. It's like, oh, this is my boy. He's going to do this today. But wait a minute. I've been waiting for this. No, I'm going to let him do it. Just being cast aside. No matter how. The more work you do, the more they overload you, right? Because they reward the hard workers with more work. That's their reward, right? You do 200 stops one day, tomorrow you'll have 300. You do 300 stops tomorrow, the day after you got 400. And they're delivering 500 pieces, 400 pieces, 300 pieces. I got a guy at UPS. I think he's lucky if they can get him to do more than 8 stops an hour. He'll be done at 8 or 9 o'clock. These kids are doing 25, 30 stops an hour or better to make their boss happy. And if they're not doing that, they're taking days away from them. That alone gets them angry. Another part of that question to me that's important as an organizer is telling a little bit of your story. Because if you can dig deep and open up about yourself, there was a time where I was ashamed of talking about my story growing up and dealing with cockroaches in my cereal or stealing car parts to make a little money, getting arrested, having friends that sold drugs and that were killed, watching people be shot. Like, I was lucky to have gotten out of that life. And I didn't want to share that with anybody. I didn't think that was something that I should share with people. That's my story. But I realized the power of my story. I realized how it would help people see that even a guy like me can make it because I fought for what I got with my collective workers. It wasn't me by myself. Yeah, I did not take no shit, but I could never have done it by myself. So when I am organizing a worker and they don't seem moved by the work and they're kind of okay with I start talking about, well, listen, I can tell you that when I was a kid, I went through this, and this. And as I grew older, and I got a union job, I saw how much it did for me and how it drastically changed my life, and you guys heard my story. You guys know that there is a strength in telling that story. And then you get to the point where, and I was part of the 1997 strike, and I saw collectively how 185,000 workers for 2 weeks on the street showed this company that they can't make that money without our shoulders, without our backs, without our muscle, without our blood, without our sweat, without our tears. We make them that money. And they only understand one thing, money. So if you want to hurt them, you got to hurt them where it hurts, in their pockets. Amazon workers, if they go on strike, Amazon will lose billions of dollars a week. Billions. UPS workers, in 2023, UPS knew that we have 6% of the gross domestic product in this country. That is enough to cripple the economy. Nobody wanted that. Not the president, not the company that they're losing 6 to 7 billion a week. They know that the strike threat is real. They will cave. They will give you more. You have to take it to that point. But you have to express that in a way that you move this worker for him to understand and feel that in his bones, or her. They have to listen and understand it. And let me tell you something, I've always felt, for whatever reason, a lot of the women that we tell these stories to take to it, and they become some of the best organizers. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the men. We have some great men organizers. I'm pretty good. But I feel like, in my experience, some of the women have just gone to an extra, they just have a thing and they know how to tell their story. Especially if you train them well, like I could tell you over time in my years, especially over the last 4 or 5 years, I've seen people that I've trained become amazing organizers. Talking about learning how to tell your story, telling these workers what they can do together, things that have been done in the past. Like, you take the history of yourself and the history of the movement, and that moves people because a lot of them don't know. They don't teach this in school. When you're hearing it for the first time, it blows your mind. You're like, wait a minute, 1934, people were fighting in the streets and getting beat up and bloodied by cops? There are some countries where they don't bring cops or people to break up the picket lines. They use military, right? Yeah. Korea, for perfect example. Even the Philippines. Yes. Like, there are a lot of places that that workers aren't just fighting through lawyers and stand-up strikes. Strikers are being shot and killed, and they're still fighting because they know they would rather die on the picket line than die slowly every day from this company that's taking their lives. They're willing to put their lives on the line. People here don't even know what that's like, but you tell people that and they wake the hell up. And it's how you tell it, right? There's a way to say things. You know, I've always had a passionate way of speaking, but it's not because I'm just doing it. It's because I believe in what I'm doing. You have to be genuine in your work. When you believe in something so deep inside and you could express it the way I've done and others have learned to do, you could really move people. To answer your question, when you're trying to move people, you have to be passionate about the work. You have to be genuine. When I'm speaking to a worker, I'm looking at this worker as a future leader in the movement. I don't care how old they are. I'm looking at the next me. I'm looking at the next Sean O'Brien. I'm looking at the next Vinnie Perone. I am looking at the next Ron Carey. I am looking at this person like he has endless limits, or she has endless limits to the ability of what he or she can become in the future, right? And I take every organizing conversation that serious, because you never know what this... I was, introduced to this early, and I was lucky enough, but then I went through 20 years of bad union leadership, and I was disheartened. And I was one of those members that was just trying to help my own guys keep from getting fired, because I felt like we didn't have any backing from our international union. And I went through a couple of bad local leaderships too, because there's elections every 3 years. You never know what you're going to get. But I learned over time that it doesn't matter who's up there. It does in a way, but we can always change that. If you don't like what you have up there, get the people together and change it. If you're not happy with the Teamsters because you feel they're not moving in the right direction, become a Teamster, become part of the Teamsters, get a job and change it.
Don't just complain.
Thank you. I mean, I like hearing the complaints, but at the end when you're organizing a worker, you get that past the complaints, and like he said, what are you gonna do about it? I don't know what you're gonna do, but I know that I'm ready to go to war. And I'm ready to have you by my side, and I prefer somebody who's gonna stand by my side and beat the fear and take them on than somebody who's gonna cower away and see what we're doing, and when I turn around, there's nobody behind me. I'm building a team of Super Bowl winning, Stanley Cup winning, basketball championship winning, World Cup soccer winning. I'm building a team of winners, an army of soldiers that are going to stand shoulder to shoulder against the company. And when I turn around, they're still standing there, because those are the people that we need to train up and get ready to take them on. And not everybody's like that, right? There's a lot of apathy in the world. When I started the Amazon organizing, I was beating my head up against the wall. I just didn't know how to break through. It was just so hard because the turnover rate is so ridiculous. And I was really at my wit's end. I was like, here they chose me to do this because of my pedigree, because they know what I've done at UPS and how I was able to move workers. But at the same time, it was like, where do I start? This monster of a company, and then I was trained. My organizer trainer is a woman, and I respect her, younger than me. And she's done so much great work. She's worked in the Philippines. She's worked in Cambodia. She's done such amazing work over the country. When I met her, I could not believe the story she told. And I was like, yes. She made me see that Amazon is no different than any of these other companies. We just have to find a way. And I'm very happy with where we're at right now. I can't talk too much about it because...
How do you break through?
So you break through by not giving up. You break through by casting the web as wide as you can, no matter, you're going to speak to 40, 50 people a week. They're not all going to be good, but you're going to find the one.
Yeah.
All you got to do is find the one.
True.
And then that one will build. I'm not going to mention any names
Right,
or
right.
any facilities.
Right, right.
There was this one building. It was very difficult for me. I was meeting with 2 workers, and they were quiet folks, and you know they were Latino. They were trying, but they just couldn't really get it going. And I was meeting with them for a few months, and I'm like, guys, we gotta find somebody. Like, I can't be there with you, but I've been training you guys. You guys know how to have these conversations. And they bring this one woman, Haitian woman, and everything changed. I mean, she brought a fire to this group. They went from 3 people to 6. They went from 6 to 12, and they continue to build.
Wow.
You know, and you know, I don't want to say too much,
Right.
but
I see the point. Yeah.
Amazon's got to watch out.
Right.
Things are happening, and I'm only talking about one place. You know, people are doing some things, and they're fighting. People are tired. Again, like in the 30s and 40s, a lot of times people get to the point where they're exploited so much and they're treated so poorly and so bad, and they're being given the scraps right there. Let's look at it as a big pie of pizza, right? You guys like pizza?
Right.
Big pie of pizza, right? And the company only wants to give you the crust,
Right.
Not even a slice. They want to give you the crust of a slice.
Right.
Like, you know what? I think we deserve more than that. I think we deserve a slice, maybe 2. You know what? I want some pepperoni too. I want some peppers and mushrooms and anchovies. Like, you know what? I don't even want just 2 slices anymore. I want half the pie. We deserve more. And sometimes you just got to learn, teach people that. Like, you can't just be happy with what you're getting because you deserve so much more because they have so much more to give. Why are you okay with that? You know?
Is there, I'm sorry,
No.
just like sometimes people know you need to fight, but they don't have faith that others will go with it.
Yeah, and that's where you find the one, right? So there's another thing that helps with that is there's already an industry standard for by multiple unions, right? Like, for example, in logistics, UPS set the bar on logistics. The post office pays their workers okay. You know, people that are doing deliveries, for the most part, after 3 or 4 years of service, are all making over $30, $40 an hour
Okay.
with pensions, with benefits.
Yeah.
That's the industry standard. I mean, UPS exceeds it because we kick ass, right?
Right. Yeah.
As a union, we really fight. But there are workers like Amazon workers that are doing the same work that they're well below the industry standard. And we have to show them the side-by-side comparison. You think you're doing okay? Let me show you what other workers in the industry are doing, just so you can get an idea.
Right.
Here you go, side by side. This is what you got. This is what they're making. I'm not even going to pick UPS. Let's go to like DHL or FedEx or somebody that's, you know, or let's use the post office.
Right.
They're still doing way better than you. Okay? UPS is the standard, right? And then look at these guys. They're still doing all over $30, $40 an hour with pensions and benefits. Where are you guys at? Have you really done as well as you think you can? I don't think so. Not when you're a company like Amazon, who's probably way more powerful than the post office than UPS. How many people do you know that have Amazon Prime accounts? They say like 80% of American families are paying Amazon $100 a month. Not only that, everything you do online, a lot of it goes through Amazon. They control all the servers. You're on a Zoom meeting, Amazon is getting paid. They're like the toll keeper of multiple things. We call them octopus arms. They're in our food industry. They're Amazon Fresh. They're selling cars. They're selling all products. If somebody is making money on Amazon, they see that and they steal their business. I heard a story about a worker who ended up selling his own stuff and doing really well. Not a billionaire, but he made a few million off of delivering through Amazon, selling through Amazon. Amazon saw how much the products this person was making, and they ended up dropping when people started searching for the products, putting theirs on top and this guy underneath. And they were able to literally bankrupt this person. And then once he was out of business, the price went back up.
Right.
They can do that to anybody.
Right.
They can do that to UPS right now. This is why we have to level the playing ground.
Right.
These companies like Mercedes and BMW and Volkswagen, they all have to become union.
Right.
They're fighting for that. We're fighting Amazon. We're fighting all these other organizations, all this subcontracting, all these third-party deliveries. No, gig workers, the Lyft, the Uber, all of that stuff has to stop.
And if it doesn't stop, then we have to at least make sure they're union, so there's a standard. But going back to this, so you asked me about how I started. So I kind of been organizing. I didn't know it was a job, and I went to this training she had. So she said at the end of the meeting, if anybody's interested in helping the union, and this was before Sean O'Brien got elected, they had already started in small increments. I was like, yeah, I think I would like to help with this. I think it's something important, and I'm gonna go to this training. And I went to this training, and that's when I discovered what really organizing is. Not that I wasn't doing it already. I was always organizing my coworkers. I was always bringing people together, but never bringing people into our union. And it was a whole different world. And they were using me. She thought that I did really well in the training and asked if the union would take me on union leave a couple of days a week to help. So I was working at UPS a few days a week. And at this time now, I'm off the truck now, I'm inside again. As a steward, like I told you the story, helping that kid, I was inside the building. Now it was kind of felt good because I was back to where I started, but now I was a clerk and I had more mobility to move around and do stuff because I was, as a clerk at UPS, you're basically taking packages that are, that need address corrections, that were going to the wrong place and trying to find where it's supposed to go, fixing the address and putting it out the next day for delivery on a computer. So the drivers would come, drop off all the stuff that was no good, and I'd fix it to get ready to go out the next day. So a lot of times, you know, I would get calls from workers that needed me, and I would have to go, and they'd be like, hey, you got work to do. I said, hey, I'm also a shop steward. This is my obligation, okay? This is union duty. And I would go do what I had to do. So during that time, I had some free time, and I would, it's a really late shift. I started at like 4 o'clock, and I'd get off around almost 1 in the morning. And, you know, I'd go home and go to sleep. And then when I woke up, I'd have the whole morning until about 4 before I had to go to work. So I ended up doing 3 days working there at UPS and 2 days organizing. And this is when I told you I was beating my head up against the wall, because now I'm trying to understand this world of organizing. You know, like I was always good. My UPS guys, they're trained. Some of them, you know, you just got to educate them a little. They pretty much, once they see the others, it's like, it's so much easier. But when you're dealing with a workforce that has no idea, you know, you get lucky when you find that one who had a father that was in a union or a brother who worked at UPS. That's what you're hoping to find. But you're not always going to find that. They don't know what a pension is. They don't care about benefits. They don't know. They don't know when they're going to break an arm or lose a tooth and have to go to the dentist. You know, maybe if you have glasses, you understand. So it was really, really tough for me. A transition from, you know, but the good thing is I was still working as a shop steward, and then now I was learning a new job. Over time, I started really breaking through and making some headway and starting to get some good people that were getting together, and they saw that I was really coming into a stride. And there was a few of us now. They had us get a few people to help us out. So now I had like a good team of people working on it, and they decided to make me full time. They said, "Listen, you know, we need more of you. we need to get this going. You know, we're gonna give you 5 days a week now, and is that okay?" And I said, "Well, let me talk about it with my wife." You know, there was a lot for me to think about because I liked what I was doing, but I also felt like I was leaving the workers that I had helped bring to this point where we had changed the culture. Workers are standing up, and you know, I felt like I had left people that were good to continue the work, but it still felt like my baby, you know. And I'm an older man now, right? I'm in my 40s. I'm about 45, 46. No, actually about 40, 46, 47. And it was a big decision for me because I'm not a young guy, and I thought about a lot of things, like how can I organize these young workers? They may think I'm too old, or these kids today just punch it in their phone, Google, what's this? Google, what's that? It's totally different. But it's helpful in a way too, because they can also access the information I'm talking to them about. You know, technology is both good and bad. It can be hurtful, but yeah, that was my struggle, trying to figure out where my place was in this organizing. I was like, am I too old for this? And you know, I sat there with my wife and I said, honey, you know, my kids were young. They were like 5 and 6, and I was like, I think it would be a lot of sacrificing. I don't think this is a 9-to-5 job. You know, organizing is not,
Yeah.
it's not a set schedule.
24/7.
I can be meeting a worker at 1 a.m. in the morning and the next day have to be up to meet a worker at 8 a.m.
Right.
You know, a lot of times I'm on vacation and I'm still checking my emails and making phone calls. So I told her, I said, this could be what my life is, and I need you either to be okay with it or you tell me that it's not for us. And I really wanted her to understand that because I wanted to do it, but I would never have done it without her blessing, without her knowing. And, you know, she had a couple of questions and I would say things like, well, and I agree, but do you want our kids to grow up in a world where there ain't nothing left, where they can't get a good job unless they're going to college and getting it? Like, I love my kids and they seem smart, you know, but I don't want to push that on them. I don't want to fight with them to become lawyers or doctors if that's not what they want to do. There should be good jobs for them still. There should be these corporations, you know, we're going to be fighting them. And this is a big one. This is one of the biggest. And she understood and she agreed. And then I did it. And then it was the hardest part, like what you're saying, is assimilating to that new life. It's from being a person who was used to having a culture of workers that were easily educated because of the environment to fight the boss, than to going to a culture of workers that are not. Where I think the word is hegemony. It's, you know, and I'm sure you guys see this in China, right? The workers who keep their head down and just do the work. They're scared of the boss. They're scared to lose their jobs. They have no real protections and they feel like it's hopeless. There's no way to fight them. That's the culture I want to fight. That's the culture I want to beat. I want these workers to hold their head up and be proud of the work they're doing and get what they deserve so they can go to work every day wanting to go to work instead of dreading when they wake up in the morning not wanting to go to work. They're going to know that when they get up and go do a job, it's rewarding and it's worth it, instead of just going to work because you have to pay your bills and you're behind on your bills and you hate your job. It shouldn't be that way.
But how do you, where do you meet those Amazon workers?
Well, you know, they're out there, you know, they're all over. You meet them on the street, you meet them where they're eating, you meet them, you know, now Lyft is shared. So if you jump in an Uber and you're in a Lyft and you're talking, you're next to an Amazon work, well, it's a simple introduction, right? Hey, how you doing? Yeah, my name's Anthony. I worked for UPS for like 20 years. How long you been at Amazon? That's the funny thing, right? When you speak to a UPS worker, they're all like, how long you been there? 15 years, 17 years, 12 years, 10 years, 25 years, 30 years. You speak to an Amazon worker, ask them how long. Ask them how long. If you can find an Amazon worker that's been there for 3 or 4 years, you found a unicorn.
Yeah.
That's a person you want to talk to because they've stuck it out, right? They obviously have nothing better they can do. So they want to make this a good job for themselves. But for the most part, that's what you get. 6 months, 7 months, a year, 2 years. 2 years seems to be the breaking point where they're like, this, I'm done, you know? A lot of workers within a month or two, this ain't for me, you know? A worker that can't do the job, a slow worker that wants to work, but they won't give him the work because he's too slow or she's too slow. So, yeah. But yeah.
How do you know who's Amazon worker?
Well, Amazon workers are, you know, very distinct. They all wear certain vests and stuff.
That's right. Okay.
And they most of them wear a uniform. The warehouse workers are all wearing a certain type of vest, like the safety vest.
Right.
And yeah, they're not hard to find.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And there's so many of them now. So they're like I said, you know, if you know where there's a building, you're gonna find how they're getting back and forth.
Right.
And they're usually putting their facilities in black and brown communities, right? Because that's the workforce they're trying to bring in. They want to abuse the crap out of these workers and send them packing as soon as they don't need them anymore and get a new group. They look for these high density poverty neighborhoods where they can really exploit the people in that community. And we're trying to educate the communities around this. So it's very different, like you said. And there's the fear again, because you do fear that you're going to lose a really good person. We lost somebody that we were working with, and it really affected me because this person was very strong and was doing some amazing work. And I knew that they took this person or tried to retaliate against them because they knew that this person was gonna be something to have a problem with. But we were able to train that person so well that when it came down to the speaking to try to get their job back, they did such a great job and talked about how safety is so important that this person did get their job back. And we've lost a few along the way. One thing that workers have to understand, there is laws, even if you don't have a union, that protect you in this country. I mean, they're not great, but there are. And we teach them their rights. So I never lie to a worker. I'm always very straightforward. You can organize. You're going to be able to make a difference. I promise you. That I can promise you. But I'm not going to lie to you and say they won't try to fire you. They will. But what I will tell you is that you are more protected by organizing your coworkers than when you're not. Because if you're not organizing, they can fire you for anything. When you are organizing and they try to fire you, it's a retaliation, and that is against the law. Now, I'm not going to, again, lie to you and say that this company won't fire you anyway, because they don't care about the law. But I can tell you, we will fight to try to get your job back, and many times we have, and gotten the workers' job back with back pay. They were out of work for a month, they have to pay them that month because they fired them for retaliation of organizing.
Right.
In the NLRA, the National Labor Relations Act, in Section 7, it states very clearly that you have the right to organize your coworkers. You have that right, as long as there are 2 or more of you. It could be 2 people fighting over safety, and you're organizing around that, and they try to fire you. That is retaliation. That is against the law. But again, I don't lie to anybody. It doesn't mean that they won't. But I promise you, we will do everything we can to get your job back. But just remember this. If they fire one person because one person's fighting or 2 people are fighting, that's one thing. And we could try to fight to get your job back. But when you organize enough of your coworkers and there's 30 or 40 of you, are they going to fire all of you? They'll still try to fire one. But now you have all these people behind you. So you're so much more powerful as a collective. Don't make yourself out to be the 1 or 2 that are standing in front of anything. Make yourself a group of 30 or 40, and this way they can't see who the leader is, because you're all one. If they come after one of you, they have to come after all of you. And that's what helps beat the fear sometimes, when you explain that to them and let them know, you know, it's about the collective. It's not about one person standing out. It's not easy. And it's not easy. It is grueling. It is constant conversations of uplifting people, inspiring people. You have to be able to do that. You have to be able to, again, tell your story and have them tell theirs. When you open up to a worker about what you went through, remember I told you that, like, I was ashamed of my story until I saw the power in it? It really shined through, because the more conversations I had that I would express the story, and I got that worker to open up a little bit about what they went through and some of the injustices in their life, you know, it made me see, and at the end of the conversation, well, you know what, we've been through a lot, the both of us. What can we do together to fight this? To stop what's happening to your family, to my family, to everybody else that you work with. Where are we gonna start? Well, we start with just us, but we're gonna make sure there's a whole army behind us. And I tell them, there's a war, and it's inspiring. When you don't talk about it as a boss versus us, it's not just a boss. We are at war. This is a war.
Class war.
It's a class war, and we need soldiers. And yeah, maybe we're not fighting with guns. Not yet. No, I'm just kidding. But we are fighting with people, you know? And again, we don't need to be scared of us. They need to be, they don't need to be scared of them. They need to be scared of us. And it's about bringing that out of them. And no, it's not easy by any means. But again, when you're genuine in your speech, because you know it's real and you believe in what you're doing, it's a lot easier. Now, if you're if you can't come at somebody and be like, so, hey, how you doing today? How's your wife? Did she get past that surgery? How'd it go? How are your kids doing in school? You know, I'm glad they're doing good. Moving forward, did your boss do anything bad to you today? Like, is there anything you want to talk about? And they'll go on and start. And again, first of all, when I'm speaking to a worker, like I said, I'm expecting this person, he or she can be something great in our union, somebody great in the movement. I don't know. I may have found a diamond in the rough. Yeah. You don't know. So every conversation to me means everything. And I want to make sure that I'm building a real relationship. This isn't like you're going to organize for me and once I'm out, you're done and see ya. No, I want you to call me later on. I want to talk about how well you're doing. I want to know that your kids are doing great and went to college because you were able to afford an education for them because we fought for you to have a union. I want to make a lifelong friend with everybody I speak to. You can't look at this as just a job. It is a way of life. If you're not ready to organize in that mentality, then it is not for you. You're building relationships with people for real. I want to love this person and fight for them and stand by them and help them get through what they need to get through. And I hope that they're willing to do it with me. If you can't approach it that way, you're not going to move people. You're not going to help anybody get anywhere. You have to come from a place in here that's real. People that make mistakes in organizing is because they're not. They're thinking of just the work and they're just trying to do the numbers and it can't be just that. That's important. Yes, we can get to that. But you're building a real connection. Don't ever forget that. People lose sight of that, and that's why they have fatigue and they don't understand why I'm beating my head up against the wall. It's because you're not making any real connections. It's like you're manipulating or trying to convince or you're using this person. I'm not using this person. I'm not trying to convince them of anything. If I'm trying to do anything, is help them build a better life. In my brain, in my heart, I want them to build a better life. Lying to them is the most important thing. I'm not here to save you. That is not my job. My job is to help you save yourself. I am going to do everything I can to help you get where you need to be, but you have to do the work. And I'm not going to promise you that tomorrow I can fix this or fix that. That's not happening. This can be a year-long campaign where I promise you I will be there every day. I'll be that coach that wakes you up at 6 in the morning that you hate to listen to. But I am going to call you. I am going to follow up with you. I'm going to see how you're doing. If you're having a problem at home, if you need me for anything, you call me. Not just for organizing, not just for work. If you have a personal issue, if you're moving and you can't find anybody to help you move, I will bring someone to help you. I will come and help you move. If you are going through a tough time, we will open a GoFundMe page and we'll put some money together for you. What I'm doing is going to help you, and I am going to do everything in every aspect of your life to help you do that. But I am not going to do that if you're not willing to fight for yourself. All I want for you to do, the only thing I ask, is that you never give up and that you keep on fighting until you win. And that will be, for me, the biggest reward, because I helped you find your victory. And that's what we do. And having those conversations is way different than talking to a worker at UPS who's dealing with a bad supervisor. This is a real life-changing conversation.